Hi everyone, welcome to Internal Control Talks. Our goal with this podcast is to help you thrive as internal control professionals by bringing you the best advice from industry leaders. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, as today's guest is going to share with us a few tips on developing the skills required to build an outstanding career in governance, risk and compliance. He will also talk about how to manage difficult stakeholders and effectively communicate the value of what we do as internal control professionals. I'm really excited to introduce our guest. Today we are here with Felipe Dal Belo, an outstanding governance, risk and compliance executive with 15 plus years of track records in delivering remarkable results for multinationals of the caliber of Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Sanofi and Telecom Italia Mobile. He lived and worked in the United States, Italy and all around South America. He is now based in Brazil and he is advisory board member for Grant Thornton, Thomson Reuters and Montvero, as well as professor, speaker and coordinator of an executive MBA program with specific focus on governance, risk and compliance. He's a strong believer in continuous education. In fact, he is also a PhD student of artificial intelligence and data science at the University of São Paulo. Felipe, welcome to the podcast. It is so good to have you here.
Okay, thank you so much, Cecilia. Once again, this is an honor of mine. Thank you for your kind words and acknowledges for me and for all the global community. It's such a relevant initiative that you have taken in order to multiply and widespread the knowledge and experience across Americas, across Europe, and across the world in terms of internal control, governance, risk, and compliance, and then give to people real life experience in how they can overcome their barriers and also share it with all these people that follow your site, your community. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is such a pleasure of mine.
Thank you very much, Felipe. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. I want to begin this interview by talking about your career. So you share with me that you started as trainee in the manufacturing and supply chain department of a massive corporation such as Sanofi, and you managed to be promoted over and over again. You are now a recognized governance, risk and compliance expert, and you are advising boards of big multinational companies such as Grant Thornton, Thomson Reuters and Montvero. Which advice would you give to a young professional who wants to move up the corporate ladder and become an advisory board member as you are now?
Excellent. Nowadays, we are going through disruptive times in terms of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguous, like a VUCA concept. So at my time, if you go back in time, around 20 years ago, we didn't have this fast shifting landscape that we have. And one of the first takeaways and one of the lessons learned that I would like to share with you guys, regardless stage of a career you are at now at this point of time, is continuous learning. Continuous learning, long life learning is key to moving up or continuous progress in your life. All right. So if you starting around early 2000 years, okay, 2001 to be more precise, I was ending my major in pharmacy, believe it or not. That's a high regulated industry, okay, pharmaceutical and life science industry. This is a very high regulated industry around the world. And I was very, how can I say, naive, shy, introverted, as a usual student of pharmacy. And I got started to be more specifically at Aventis, and then Sanofi acquired Aventis as part of the agreement of the shareholders. And then at this point of time, I started working the shop floor. So shop floor gave me a lot of soft skills and social emotional skills in terms of how to relate with people, right? It was intentionally to myself. I didn't want to stay stuck in the office and only reading batch records and HPLC, all those analytical methods and numbers and graphics and all day long. I want to interact with people. and consider that myself is very technical, I started, how can I say, I would like to say something very personal. I'd like to reveal to you, Cecilia, self-knowledge, awareness of yourself. So by the time I start interact with all level of employees, since from the the plant manager, general manager of the country, until the people who operate the machines, I really realized that stay humble and stay grounded is very important in your life, because everything. This is my personal takeaways. Maybe it does not apply to other ones, but it really worked and continues working.
Yeah.
Okay, it's something. It's not a magic formula, but I think there are some points that I connected very early in my life that really worked well. I mean, respect people, the basics and the principles and values of reasonable citizen, right? I was very and keep very hungry for learning, so I started learning different language as well. At this point of time, I had my English very fluent in terms of speaking and writing and communicating as well. What was a differential for us here in Brazil? We don't have a second language like most of the countries in Europe and also in other countries. This is how can I say, a disadvantage for us Brazilian, that Portuguese we don't have. Portuguese is not that business language as you can compare to Spanish and other ones. So also in language and side skills. This is the key point I'd like to share with you guys. What is I consider side skills? I started learning. I get interested in skills subjects that was not part of my regular matters or disciplines. We say in Brazil, disciplines of my university. So once people realized that I was um, deep diving on finance, deep dives on accounting, they really got impressed in something. At the point of time, it was kind of confusing because what the heck, you, Felipe, is studying finance? It doesn't have anything to do with. That's why I want to go deep dive. I want to look and behave outside the box. And I kept doing at the same, always looking around, trying and look at different skills and competence that my colleagues or my ecosystems did not have. So I moved from, in summary, uh, technical specialist in Six Sigma, process improvement, and then I moved from manufacturer supervisor, process validation. This is the trajectory of my career. I have been invited to hold a position at the shop floor at Johnson Johnson. Always very humble, respect people, and hungry for knowledge. During my 6 years in Johnson Johnson, I've been invited to work at Latin American quality assurance, and then I moved to another position since I started get interested in supply chain in other disciplines, in other matters, subjects that was not common for pharmaceuticals. Other leaders from purchase, from business development, marketing, caught their attention on my profile, I would say. So I created a circumstance in order to look up for the circumstance. So one something that I really do in my life is to create the opportunity to be noted and not running after that. Because once you run after that, you are in disadvantage.
Yeah.
Right? This is one takeaway of mine. And to be noticed, a matter of human behavior. Okay, you have a bunch of pharmaceuticals. What do you have different from the other, the majority? So once I started make this reading of the scenario, my life has completely changed, dramatically changed. Johnson Johnson, supervisor, manufacturer supervisor, quality assurance and leader, business development. I moved to US for a couple of months. Had an amazing experience, and I'm really grateful for US because it really shaped some of dogmas I had by being educated in Latin America. So it was like skyrocket growth once I interact with the U.S. and U.S. citizens and Americans in general. So I've been invited. After that, I was living in Brazil, but going up and back to U.S. Very often. I've been in contact by human capital or human resource, I don't know how can I say today, representative, to go to Coca-Cola and to occupy officer position in audit and compliance department. So I used to travel 27, 28, 30 weeks yearly.
Well,
Okay.
that's a lot.
That's a lot, but at the same time, I think one of the most valuable experience of my life by interacting from Brussels to Nicaragua, from Italy to Chile, and there you go. Okay, and so on. And more recently, I held the position of vice president at Telecom Italia, as you mentioned in the very first beginning of this amazing podcast. And I had the opportunity to interact with the high leadership, investors, shareholders. So this was a breathtaking experience because I have never been in a chair like this before. But people from the other side of the table, if you understand me, recognized on myself some skills like emotional, social, technical, and experiences that fit the position they were looking for. So in terms of flexibility, in terms of technical education, and also global mindset. The global mindset gives you a huge advantage over other candidates because you have the view, the perspective of the whole thing. How people behave in Asia, in Africa, Europe, and how do you overcome, address the problems and the solutions that organizations nowadays they need to move very fastly. So I think it was one of the advantage, and that's why nowadays I think I can say that I moved a little bit faster than the average.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thank you very much for sharing the journey that brought you to be an advisory board member. I think that was very interesting. From my perspective, very, very key takeaways from you. Really, stay humble and be always hungry to learn more. Go outside of your area of expertise. Trying to understand the business as much as possible. I think that's really, really valuable, especially when it comes to operating and implementing internal controls throughout the organization. You got to understand what each department is doing, the business, the finance, it can be operations, purchasing, and IT, a little bit of everything. Otherwise, you would never get to have the overall view that allows you to evaluate risk properly and then to address with effective controls. At least, based on my experience, that really resonated with me when you were talking about that. So
awesome.
Talking about the skills that an advisory board member should have nowadays. So you mentioned flexibility, you mentioned technical knowledge, you also mentioned the global mindset. So the being able to deal with different cultures in different environment and possibly with different languages. I know your Italian is very, very good. I tested that myself. Is there any other skills that you would say are particularly relevant for that kind of position?
Absolutely. You mentioned, from my point of view, humbly speaking, these are some skills that I found out crucial, especially in terms of relationships and rapport, how to rapport during the meetings. Especially during the meetings, you need to understand, first of all, which kind of actors, which kind of characters will be in their room during this meeting, during this occasion. And most of that be political or political skill. The time you need to understand how do you need to step back, keep your point of view, and also be a little more at sometimes tough in terms of keep your opinion in terms of a second line of defense, especially when you are working in these areas. You need to recognize what is the borderline to be political, social, well related, or be firm and keep your position in terms of decision making. They are also will in terms of talking about advisory board members for those ones have a trajectory in audit compliance in all those controlling areas. They will also test if your resilience in terms of challenges, in terms of source of your point of time. Where did you get this information? How did you reach this point? So these are some questions they address to you. What do you suggest, Felipe? Since we have a very crucial decision in our hands and we cannot postpone. So these kind of questions or these kind of challenges will challenge you more emotionally. And something that I really appreciate to share with you guys also is your health, physical, mental, and spiritual. Believe it or not, it makes completely different in terms of balance. This is something that is not in the books. The management books teaches you the basics, the theory, and all those masters of management, finance, and marketing. But something that really helped me to keep balanced and keep myself focused on decision making is have healthy habits in terms of exercise, workout, no, regardless exercise you want to do, because you need life is about balance, no. And as a pharmacist, I know very well that once you get nervous, once you get stressed or burnout, the biochemistry of your body changes dramatically. It turns more acid and really have consequence on your decision making in terms of neural connections, etc. This is something very geeky to explain, but it's important. It's
it makes
important
sense. It makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Be hydrated. So this is everything about how you take your life, how you behave in life. In the board member, technically for sure, be skillful on the subject of matter you offer your skills to work to. Listen more than speak. At this point of time, you need to calculate very cautiously, very carefully each step you take, because they don't accept failures, unfortunately. This is the old school, or the majority of the board members that hold these positions around the world. But we are living a different time. This kind of behaviors change, and they are more demanded to get to know technical and high technology skills and the profile of the board member, according also to a very interesting report issued by Spencer Stewart. If you guys want to look up, the report calls Speed Skills. It's basically what are the new and the upcoming profile of the board members around the world, especially in the developed markets, US, Europe, and China. Okay.
Very interesting.
I don't
Thank
know
you
if
for sharing.
I don't know if I help you, but this is my personal experience.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think every time we step up our game from a career perspective, we also need to back it up with stepping our game from a personal perspective.
That's true.
So when you operate to a certain level, you need to take care of yourself to a certain level. Your brain, body, everything. I think that's really key, as well as obviously technical skills. What would you say is the biggest obstacle that you encountered as you were progressing in your career, and how did you manage to overcome it?
I think for most of human being is by the time you design or concept, scrap your career map, your road map, and you establish a period of time to reach that, and you don't make it. This is something frustrating, and everyone can, how can I say, get a little bit upset and have difficult to resume or start over. Nowadays, regarding frustration and regarding rejection failure is something that I really look for in a different perspective. I think life is more about failures and disappointments than success, and that's why you really find yourself challenged. Only yourself, only you is able to overcome your gaps or difficulties you find out. But the biggest, I think, personally, is to get to know yourself, self-awareness, okay, and review what did not work well, and keep doing the same thing and expected different results is insanity, okay. So it's very important to go back to your project and review what did well, what did not work, and talk to people that you really have confidence and really believe and really appreciate to talk, and you feel confident and safe. So in terms of people, in terms of overall looking, is to manage the things that you don't have control, definitely. Whether company culture, people that will challenge you will not look at you with sympathy because you are doing well in life. This is real life, okay? And how do you bring these people to roll in the same direction of the ball? So that's why in the very first beginning, I told you guys that I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I have these leaders as a reference for my life. Start get to know people. Start to develop your social and emotional skills. I will not mention there is a list of great authors in terms of motivation, in terms of social, but get to know yourself, get to know people. How do you interact with them? Usually, what I believe is that working a two-way road conversation, gain, win-win, you're going to make progress, definitely. If the other side of the table is also see themselves get some beneficial from the conversation, for sure this conversation will result in beautiful fruits, will be fruitful. So but on the flip side, if you start working myself, me, my company, my, it's very selfish, and automatically the unconscious of everyone will close the door of this opportunity that you started to discuss. This is something that I really the biggest obstacle. As every technical individual, you have always difficult with people management. So I started to look up at this point. That was a gap of mine. I started working on that. I keep working on people development, and I think things started working much better.
Yeah, no, what you say about the difficulties in establish conversation with people really resonate. And sometimes it's difficult to make colleagues to perceive the value of what we do within the company. Some of them believe that implementing controls is a waste of time and it makes processes complex and bureaucratic. So
that's true.
In these situations, how would you address these objections, and do you have any tips on how internal control professionals can help colleagues to see the value they deliver to the organization?
Excellent question. I mean, every activity that somehow invade or breach your personal life or personal function generates some situation that people don't feel comfortable. If you are an auditor, if you are a compliance officer, and knock on someone's door, look for the records, looking for the evidence that will dig down there on people's life, people will not feel comfortable, right? What I have learned is that how do you attract these partners or stakeholders to your side to play not against you, but to contribute to a common view. And this is the key word from my point of view. What is the key view? Okay, we are going through difficult times. We have a marketplace very volatile, okay, extremely shifting, and change is impacting everyone, regardless the level of management you are. How can I work together? So once you show that internal controls, but and this is also something I will address to you guys as a consequence of my failures, is that don't try to impose your point of view. Share with them that how important is these cross functions to the common result of the company. So in case we don't perform the internal controls, this is not was not created accidentally. There is a reason to perform this control, to protect the asset, to protect your job, to protect the brand image, to protect the company reputation, to protect your country, to protect your nation, society, and even your existence in this company. Try to put people in context, not only check the box simply like that. Okay, once I change this speech, people start looking to myself slightly sympathetic. Okay, because I put the individual in the context of a whole thing. So this 360 overview of the business, and then you say, look, my friend, this internal control, regardless of technology, or financial, or commercial, legal control, is a very important stage of the whole process. Try to put in context that the function, whatever he does, is important and relevant for the business. Once you show to these players, show to these stakeholders that they really play a very relevant role in the whole thing, they take conscious, they get aware that is relevant for something much bigger. All those lists that I mentioned before, especially the existing of the organization, because nowadays one of the most valuable asset is the reputation.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this digital and globalized, connected, world and community. I think this is one of the takeaways, and I would highlight.
Yeah, so put things in context and help people to understand the bigger view over the process and the importance of their role within the process and then within the organization, to make them understand how controls can help them to be more effective and deliver value to the organization. Great. No, I think that's a really great advice, and every time I do that, I can see the difference in So it really works.
Attract them to work together, not against you. This is key. I mean, so that's why technology is helping a lot to reduce bureaucracy, reduce manual entries, reduce journal entries, reduce RPA, robotic process automation. Is making people's lives much easier and secure, safe.
And from the perspective of a CEO or a CFO, how can they be effective in communicating the importance of internal controls to their organization?
Yeah, that is such a crucial and important question for you, because it is a matter of culture, first of all. If the highest leadership do not behave, it's very difficult to all the layers down, from the top to the bottom, follow compliance and governance and risk and policies and procedures. So from the point of view of CFO, CEO, if they do not walk the talk, there is no how to keep responsible and accurate job from these controlling areas. I know life is not that beautiful like we would like to be, in terms of, okay, they are always behind the schedule, can always be more accurate, can be more engaged and committed by the owners. But again, everything starts from the high leadership. So they need to communicate, they need to be present, they need to walk the talk. And leadership for myself is by behavior, not by speech. So if they address, if they behave, if they widespread, highlight, and leave the culture of good governance and practice, generally speaking, I'm making like a synthesis, all right? Because we can go through and deep dive on that, every single department. It's going to be very exhausting, and and disappointing function in terms of compliance officers and auditing, etc. Once you go through a very chaotic scenarios, there are enterprises that they learn by tragic, and other they learn by awareness. Mm-hmm. By look around what did not working well with others. Look at Boeing. Look at Lehman Brothers. Look at Arthur Anderson. Look at what the list goes on. And I'm not shooting their companies. I'm just here reflecting around or over your questions. How CEOs and CFO remember the chapter 302, 404 of SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley. Internal controls and responsibility for high leadership. If they do not walk the talk, there is no how to move on. Okay, consistent, yes. Implement consistent controls, etc.
So walk the talk and communicate the importance of internal controls throughout the organization. Very, yep. Very key. All right. So before our last two questions, can you tell us where the audience can find you, where they can connect with you?
First of all, we can LinkedIn. Okay, and this is the professional channel that I have, and we can interact. And whenever you guys want to extend this conversation, this amazing podcast, we can also find myself and Felipe Dal Belo at yahoo.com.br. You reach me out, and whenever you want to talk and around this subject and continue talk, it will be a pleasure.
So from our previous conversation, I know that you are very passionate about education. You said that at the beginning of the interview to continue learning, and you always strive to improve yourself. So is there any book or resource that you would recommend that you have found particularly eye-opening?
Yeah, there is the True North from Bill George. He is one of my mentors at Harvard Business School. He's a former Medtronic CEO. He really helped me in a transition moment of my life, 2011 until 2015, that I moved to US, and I had the amazing and unique eye-opening experience by being taught by him in terms of take conscious awareness of life and how you are much more than a unique individual human being. So once I started realizing what surround myself, I really felt embarrassed because at this point of time, I used to be a little bit selfish, to be very honest. And what else? Technically, nowadays I'm reading a lot of artificial intelligence and all this disruptive technology. I don't have the top of my mind now, but we can publish a list of recommendations. There is hundreds of reference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Books and ebooks and sites, web pages and videos, whatever you guys feel comfortable to access. I'm really connected to the information technology, so I like the mobile devices. I have a couple of applications on my smartphone, and that's it. Is there any other special question you'd like to address to myself?
Yes, my last question was around the area you're curious about, but you already mentioned a little bit of artificial intelligence. Is there anything else you particularly love at the moment?
Yeah, data is something. Data, but data is something so huge, and the dimensions of nowadays. We are producing, according to Forbes, 2.5 quintillions of data every single day, from photos, message, and whatever means of data you can think, you can imagine it. And all the disruptive technologies really caught my attention, because this is something that's part of our reality. I mean, that's it. Yeah.
The data, how to manage them, and everything around the challenges that comes with data and managing
and
data.
Also, for sure, and also address some good to the society. I think we are very, we are orphan, especially of good leaders that have a purpose, a vision to. I'm not talking about charity, okay, all that, but how do you get people's lives better with this technology, with these sciences, with this research, etc. Okay, we can make business, we can develop it, and can evolve in life. But give back to society is something very interesting that I really like to do more often. Okay, you have different cycles in life. You grow up, you major, and then you maybe get married or not, and start look for some better salary or position in society. This is an evolution, continued evolution. At this point of time, trying to balance it, professional life, social life, personal life, and society as well.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Felipe, for
Please,
being with
pleasure.
us and sharing your experience with our audience. I'm sure the takeaway were very significant and very useful for our professionals.
No, thank you again. I think there is no other way in life to emerge by doing the average. I think work hard is the only way legal to emerge with no regrets in terms of I'm not doing nothing illegal, nothing bad. I'm not making bad for someone. Okay, and thank you again for the opportunity. Whenever you guys want to reach out or get connected, it will be a pleasure. Thank you, Cecilia. It's an amazing opportunity initiative.
Thank you very much, Felipe. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like it and share it. If you want even more resources on how to be extra effective as internal controls professionals, check out our website www.internalcontroltoolbox.com and subscribe to the email list. Thank you for listening and see you in the next episode.